We know how powerful the noise becomes. It can take our mind into baffles, create a lot of restlessness and worries, and just take us out of our own feet. The noise can be so powerful. How can silence be so powerful? No doubt, what the silence means we'll understand today. Try to talk, and how to achieve this silence. We'll also talk a little about that also in about 35 minutes. Silence is described in the Upanishads as the ultimate reality. Shanto ayam atma. This atma is shanta, where no sound goes. Sri Krishna says in the Gita, Maunam Chaivasmi Guhyanam. I am the silence. Among the mysteries, I am the silence. So he says, as God manifests, he says, I am the silence. Maunam means mouth shut. You don't speak, quietude. And also thought being quiet. The tongue is not used, no sound is produced from the vocal cord, and also mind is at rest. That will become real maunam. There are two things in the world. One is called percept, another is concept. A thing that we see is percept. And when we think about it, it becomes a concept. These are only needed for interaction with the external world, percept and concept. When we interact with the self, those things drop away, collapse. Word is not anything there, it's all silence. You dive deep into your own self. Jesus said, the letter killeth, the spirit giveth life. Here also Jesus wants to say about the expression, about the sound that disturbs. What gives life, what makes us closer to reality is silence, which is described as the spirit. The song being sung was the song of Samadhi, when everything just merges into silence. Swami Vivekananda describes as the shunya being merged in the shunya. Everything void merges into void. Or according to the language of Upanishad, it's the Purna merges with the Purna. Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate. Everything is fullness. You describe that. Shunya or Purna doesn't matter. Shunya, when we don't see this variety that we see, compared to the world, it is something different, totally negation of this world. So we can call it Shunya. But in itself, it is the source of all this variation, all this world creation. So in that way it is Purna. This creation, this world, has come from that reality, which is full. And this manifestation is also full. We can see how it is full. And it says that though it is manifested, what remains there is nothing x minus y. There was x, the reality, then world came, then what remains there is x minus y, if world is y. What is that remains in that state? It is still x. X minus y equal to x. That's what is about infinity, that's what the Upanishad says. What remains is Purna. That Purna is silence. That's why Shanto ayam atma. Why it is silence? Because nothing can describe it. Na tatra suryo bhati, na chandra taraka nema vidyuto bhanti kuto ayam agni. How bright it is, how perceptible it is, how some Purna it is, that it's so bright. But it is not brightened by sun. There is no sun that we see with our mortal eyes. There is no moon. There are no stars, the beautiful description of what that reality is. And where you find fire, this mortal fire in this world, the heavenly bodies are not there. But because that being shining, these all things which shine gets their luster. The sun shines because that reality is present. The moon, the stars, the fire, all they work because they are present. That being shining, everything gets its power to shine. So that is the ultimate reality where nothing remains. It is all ultimate, eternal, infinite peace. In this verse in the Gita, the maunam or silence is described as a tapas or a mental quality. In Gita in 17th chapter, when Sri Krishna describes about the tapas, the three kinds of tapas, austerities. Austerities of the body, austerities of the mind, and austerities of the speech. And maunam, he describes not austerity of the speech, but austerity of the mind. Mana prasada somyatvam maunam atma vinigraha bhava samsuddhiritteta tapo manasa muchyate. Manasa tapa is mental austerity. Something wrong. This quietude, maunam, should be the physical thing. You don't speak, you give rest to your tongue and voice making system, so it's physical thing. But why Sri Krishna describes it as a mental thing? No doubt, quietude is physical. But behind that is the mental peace, mental silence, mental quietude. That's why it describes. Swami Ranganathananji describes very nicely about this maunam. He says, speech and thought are in inverse ratio. Speech and thought, speaking and thinking. More thought, less speech. Less thought, more speech. When we talk a lot, we are not thinking. We have given our quality to think. We just go on talking and talking and talking. Mind has stopped or is not functioning properly. We also don't know what we are talking. We are just going on talking. And in that process of talking, when mind is not with our speech, we start talking something irrelevant, something which doesn't do any good to the world, unuseful talks, that happens. So more of talking is less of thinking. We should be alert about that. Shankara describes this maunam of the Gita as manana shakti. What is maunam? It is the power to think. Silence is described as the thinking capacity. You increase the power to think by observing quietude. Maunam or quietude is increased power to think. It is said that silence is golden, speech is silver. Always silence has been kept as a greater quality, having greater quality. That's why it says, don't disturb the peace of the world by your irrelevant and unuseful talk. Peace always is better. And when you talk, be careful that when you are talking, is it doing something good to the people you are talking with? Or you are speaking something which will disturb the listener's mind. The person who is hearing you, his mind is disturbed. So the talk becomes less useful, silence becomes more useful. Swami Ranganathananji says, don't waste energy in useless talking. Practice silence and thus conserve energy for thinking and for doing good action. So from thought, from silence comes good action because it follows silence thought follows the good thoughts. Silence, observing the silence is like restraining. And restraint is always, it needs more energy and becomes more powerful. Swami Vivekananda gives the example of a chariot going downhill, and which one is easy? Just let the horses run downhill and chariot be drawn in full speed, or to check the speed of the horses, which needs more power. So restraining always needs more power. And we know how the dams work. When you restrain the flowing river, and from it you can use water for irrigation, you can use water to generate electricity for the useful of mankind. So restraint or conservation always is beneficial and it is difficult. It becomes more powerful. We generate more energy with that. Therefore, silence in spirituality is not only absence of sound, but inner stillness. That's why it becomes so powerful. Silence is eulogized and emphasized in all religions. In Christianity, in Buddhism speaks so much of silence. And even in Islam, in Sikhism, everywhere the silence is it's very much praised as a practice of spiritual awareness. In Vedanta, maunam or silence is a tapas to attain the reality, also called silence. Silence is equated with the reality, shanto ayam atma. Shivam shantam advaitam. That's what the God is described. God is auspicious, all goodness. God is all silence, peace, and God is non-dual, one reality, one existence. That is what the God is described as. Silence or quietness is a necessary factor in our life. We know that. Best example is sleep. We hanker for sleep after a whole day of work. And what is sleep other than the silence? We want to make our all speaking, moving, thinking even process to just quieten, and we want to lay down. And when we sleep, we wake up next morning refreshed because we have experienced the silence. If the sleep was deep sleep, soundless sleep, dreamless sleep, then we experience the beauty of silence, the freshness of silence that we had experienced in deep sleep. So silence we crave for. Too much of activity, too much of action, even too much of thinking makes us very noisy. We may keep quiet through our tongue. We may not speak, but if our mind is thinking all different thoughts, then it becomes very noisy. You don't speak in mouth, but in mind you can't focus on one thing, and your mind is just radiating thoughts in all directions, all disturbed thoughts, so it becomes very noisy mind. When we walk, a solitary walk in a forest or in a meadow, after that people can say, oh, I feel so happy, so good. What is the reason? Reason is that you walked, there was little physical exercise, but more than that was the mental quietude. There was no one else to talk to you. There was no one else to disturb your mind. Your thought was, if you could really think on one thought, focus on one thought, the walk becomes still more enjoyable. That we become close to silence. Silence is close to meditation. And meditation, as Sri Ramakrishna says, Sandhya merges into Gayatri. You do worship, and worship merges into few mantra. Gayatri merges into Om. What is higher and greater than Gayatri, the whole mantra, is just Om. You don't have to repeat whole of the Gayatri. Only Om you say and you enjoy that thing, doing the worship of God. You feel you are close to God. And then Om merges into silence. So finally the highest, greatest state of the mind is silence. And Om and Gayatri and the worship are all greater, more, grosser manifestation of that silence stage. So we need, for practical purposes, we need to work, we need to think, we need to speak, but to get the energy for doing all those, we have to alternate all these with the silence. So, noise and silence, activity and rest are the plan of God. So silence becomes a very important part in our life to generate energy to perform activity in this world. But how to practice the silence now is the thing. Silence, when we know it's equated, the highest silence is equated to the ultimate reality, to God Supreme. How to practice the silence? So one way many people do is first stopping the talking, making at least speech, control of speech for some time. Mind is restless, we understand. But restlessness of the mind is expressed through talking more, and this, when we stop talking, we ask, this mind is not getting its expression, it starts becoming quiet if it doesn't have many things to express. So there are many people who find keeping quiet. They say there is one day designated Mauni Amavasya, they say, a dark fortnight, dark new moon day. If it falls on Monday, often it's called Mauni Amavasya. So that day is supposed to, you are supposed to keep quiet. Swami Ranganathananda himself used to observe silence once a week. Mahatma Gandhi used to observe silence during his freedom struggle. That as a practice to generate energy, to find out what I did wrong, what went wrong, was there something wrong in the movement, like that. When we keep silence to the world, our mind starts speaking and observing the thing about ourselves. During the silence, we start finding the wrong we did and the good we did. That is the very good way to observe ourselves. So if we can find a time, few hours in a week, just to keep silent. I am not going to speak, just announce in the family and then just keep silent. That silent will gradually lead you more towards your inner self, and there you'll find how much peace it generates, how powerful the silence is a tool to make your progress spiritually. But that had to be announced beforehand to the family. Otherwise, they will think, what happened to him? Why not talking? Is he angry? And our phone call will go to relatives. What happened to the officer, to the boss? Did you say something? My wife is not speaking, or my husband is not speaking today. Why he is doing that? It was the spiritual practice. Nothing happened in office, or nothing happened with any colleague or relative. He was just practicing. So it's better to inform that I want to keep silence for, say, 4 hours. Generally we keep silence 1 hour in the waking state, and if that is done, we can understand ourselves how it helps us to progress spiritually. Just keeping silence, what we can do during the silence, what does it mean by silence? Just not talking? Yes, that is the first thing. You stop, restrain the power of speech, you restrain the movement of tongue and movement of vocal cords. That is the first step. When it is done, stopped with your willpower, then you will find your mind is working. Mind is active. It is thinking all sorts of things that you are not speaking through your mouth. And what is the next? To practice silence, just observe your mind. You don't have to do anything. Let it wander here and there. But just one thing is, don't go with the mind. Just be witness what your mind is thinking. Some good, some bad, doesn't matter at all. Don't be alert, don't be afraid this mind is thinking something bad. Just observe the mind, what it is thinking for some time, for suppose 1 hour, 2 hours, like that. And in the process you'll find, when you are observing and you are not carried away, swayed away by the moving mind, then this thinking of the mind or running of the mind becomes less and less. Mind starts becoming quieter. And then the next stage is when the mind has become quiet and it is not running in all the directions, it is running in few directions. Now your mind is under your grip. So much power you have observed, you have attained, got by keeping the silence, that mind is now not moving by itself. It has lost its power. Now have a grip on the mind. Try to concentrate this mind. Now come under me. You know, when they train the horses, first they let them go and run according to their wish, and after that they lose a lot of energy, get tired, and then the trainer then starts and runs the horse trains the horse to run in a particular way. So like that, the mind becomes tired of thinking this and that, and it says that it's not carrying you. You have kept yourself aloof and separate from the mind and observing it. Mind understands this and it becomes tired and it feels that it is not able to work what he used to do always. That he used to carry the person, carry the being wherever it went. It was the master. And I found, the person has given me let loose and is not doing anything. So after that it becomes tired and then you start concentrating on a particular object and try to fix the mind on a particular object. Any object that you like. The first is on any one thing. I will think of my son. You can do that. I will think of my father, of my mother. Anyone whom you love, you start thinking that thing. And try to concentrate on that. You will find concentration coming more easily. And when your mind has started concentrating on a particular subject, then now it has to be replaced with divinity. Either think that what I am thinking inside that being is divinity. What I am thinking as a mother, what is there, the mother? Mother is not the body, not the mind. Real mother, the source of the love and care that I receive from mother is the spirit behind mother. Dive deep into the reality, real personality of mother, which is divinity. And searching there deep, you will find God there coming. So, now, transform the object of your concentration with some divinity. And try to fix your mind in the divinity. Like that, the tongue has become quiet. Noise has stopped. Noise of the mind has stopped. Now it is flowing in one direction. And that direction has been converted from the worldly thing to the divine thing. From the worldly object to the divine spirit. And then it says, then try to find God there. God in mother, God in son, God in father, like that. And ultimately you can replace that if you are initiated, if you have a chosen ideal, then impose the chosen ideal on the form of being, form of person that you are loving. Oh, it is God who is my chosen ideal, has become my father, has become my mother, has become my child. And that's why he or she is so beloved of me. Now comes the divine. Now slowly thinking of God will make your love for God increase. The more we love God, the more mind becomes quiet. Now this process has come. You have started thinking of God. It goes together. Loving God and making our mind quiet and silent come together. Love for God makes our lives quiet. We always find that if we are able to love God more, our life will become quieter. Our worries will become less. Our fear will be less strong. So as we grow in love for God, the silence comes in our attitude, not only in our tongue or speech. It comes in our attitude, in our behavior. Everything becomes silent and peaceful. That generates as we grow in love for God. And slowly we come towards that reality, the Atman. Atman is described that yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasasa. What is that reality? What is that source of silence? The ultimate silence is the being where sound cannot reach, where mind cannot attain, where mind and sound wanted to search it and they all returned back baffled without reaching it. So beyond mind, beyond speech is that reality. So that reality is the supreme, and we slowly become more aware of that reality by the process of this concentration and meditation, by the process of restraining our tongue or organ of speech. And finally what happens, as it happened in Sri Ramakrishna, there is only God. In Sri Ramakrishna, though he used to talk, but what he used to talk? He used to talk only about God. There was nothing else. It is all one-pointed speech, all beneficial, all sweet. His speech was so sweet, people used to come and talk to him whole day. You will find written in the Gospel that he used to speak, and that speak leads to silence. And after talking, people used to go and meditate and totally forget themselves. There are many stories. He used to say to, after talking, he used to say to him, go and meditate in Panchavati. To Latu, he used to say, go and meditate in Shiva temple. Like that, and they used to forget themselves. So, many thoughts, one thought, no thought. Satsangatve nissangatvam, nissangatte nirmohattam, nirmohatte nischalatatvam, nischalatatve jivan muktim. You are then free. You are mukta in this very life through that process of going and trying to practice this silence. Ramana Maharshi also practiced a lot of silence. So he practiced silence during his sadhana. No speech, no talking. Just the silence. And after he started meeting the devotees and disciples, people used to come and he used to just keep quiet. No speech for a long time. Just come and sit quietly. Is it boring? Just coming to someone and he is talking nothing? Not at all. Not at all. People find it's very invigorating. It's very fruitful. And they used to absorb the peace that was emanating from Ramana Maharshi. And if they had one or two questions, it would be like that. There is a story in the Upanishad. One student goes to the teacher and says, Sir, teach me about the reality, about the Brahman. Then the teacher was not replying anything. Then after some time, when he found the teacher was not speaking, he said, Sir, I want to learn about the Brahman, about the ultimate reality. There was no answer. Third time he asked, Sir, you are not saying anything about the Brahman. I want to know Brahman. I want to learn about God, about Brahman. Then the teacher said, My child, that I have been doing so long. I am saying you about the Brahman. But he was not speaking anything. He was only silent. That said, Shanto ayam Atma, Brahman or Atma is the silence. So nothing one can speak about the Brahman. So it can be understood through the silence by diving deep into our heart. That was the beautiful song being sung today. Song that all the things vanishing and all entering into our own deeper self and merging into naught. That is the silence. There is a Buddhist saying which says, do not speak unless it improves on silence. So speech should be helpful to maintain the silence. If that is speech, that is good, but the silence is more important. And what the ultimate silence is? Real silence is more than concentration. It is a meditation, and it is lack of activity. Meditation seems to be a lot of attempt. You want to control your mind running helter-skelter. You want it to keep one object. It's a lot of effort going on. But that is not meditation. That is an attempt to meditation. Real meditation is without any activity. It's just a spontaneous flow of your mind to the object of meditation. That's why real silence is meditation without mental activity. When meditation is achieved, then there is no activity. It's just complete silence. You don't have to do anything. That's why Swami Vivekananda said, a few minutes of meditation, real meditation, equals to many hours of sleep. It's so refreshing, so freshening is the real meditation when it happens. Because there is nothing, no work, it's just rest, complete rest of your body, mind, speech, all your being is fully rested and there is no action. Any action, even the thoughts completely rest. There's only one flow that goes towards the object, and that flow is spontaneous, effortless flow of the mind to the object. That becomes meditation. When that flow also stops, then you don't know, then the ego goes, and that's called nirvikalpa samadhi, ultimate realization. You understand your own being, but that may be far difficult, that nirvikalpa samadhi. But this meditation can be achieved by anyone who attempts to it. So Shankaracharya writes in the Dakshinamurti Stotram, beautiful scenery. He says some students wanted to know about the reality and they approached the teacher. And he says they all went, and teacher was sitting under a bo tree, under a banyan tree, Batataro, Mule, and the students approached. And students were aged, and teacher was young, youthful. And they wanted to learn about the reality. Teacher had to teach about the reality. Then, how the teacher speaks to the students who are aged, teacher is young, because in knowledge there is no age difference. Even Shankaracharya, you say at the age of 8, he was full of knowledge, so naturally he will have aged persons as his students. Sri Ramakrishna has Gopal, Buddha Gopal, and Swami Advaitananda. He was much more aged than Sri Ramakrishna. And Sri Ramakrishna was Guru. This physical age doesn't matter. This is what the spiritual maturity and spiritual enormity is what makes the age of the Guru. Swami Vivekananda often told to his friends and his disciples that, my child, you should do this. The child was more aged than Swami Vivekananda himself. But Swami Vivekananda could feel he can guide these people. The physical age doesn't matter. Here also the description is the scenery that Shankaracharya in Dakshinamurti Stotram describes, that students are aged, but the teacher is young. Then, how does the teacher explain? Gurustu maunam vyakhyatam. Guru is teaching in silence. Just he is not speaking anything. He is there sitting. Students are also sitting. No noise, no question, no answer. Then what is the use of it? But shishyastu chinna samsayaha. Gurustu maunam vyakhyatam. Shishyastu chinna samsayaha. And the doubts, the questions, all are being answered in that silence. All their doubts are being all cut asunder. All their questions are answered in that silence. Silence can be so powerful that this depiction of Shankaracharya in Dakshinamurti Stotram, this says that how this silence can become powerful tool for our spiritual progress. So that's why the first is like study, reading, chanting. That is important on stage. But that reading, chanting, and studies should develop, progress into contemplation, deeper thoughts. That should help in that. Only reading throughout whole life, I'm just chanting Vedas, chanting Upanishad, chanting Gita, and not thinking about it, it will not make us evolve in spiritual life. So that is no doubt a help, but that will progress and evolve into deep thinking. When the deep thinking comes, then you go deeper into your being, from chanting to deeper thoughts. And that deeper thought, when you go there, and then there is complete silence. Sri Ramakrishna described it in two his parables. One is honeybee came to suck nectar. So it was searching nectar from one flower itself, humming, and one flower to another flower, wherever it finds nectar. And when it found finally a flower which was full of nectar, it goes there humming, sits there, and then it starts just sucking the honey, just sipping the honey, enjoying the honey's taste. Now it is not humming at all, no sound, no noise, it's all quietude. It has found what it was searching. So when we are too much noisy, too much explaining the things, too much talking, is that I am not finding. One person was playing on sitar, and he was at one place. He was just playing like this, tung tung sitar. You know how this speaks Ravi Shankar thing. Playing at one place, tung tung tung. For it's 15 minutes. He's just playing there only. So those who were listening, he asked, "What is it you are playing at one place? I have seen Ravi Shankar playing throughout the sitar, length and breadth. His fingers that move like magic." Then he said, "Oh, those players have not found the right tune. They are searching throughout the sitar always. They have not tuned. I have found out the tune. So this tune you are only at one place." So like that, this is a joke, of course, but this honeybee found out what it was searching and is quiet. Sri Ramakrishna, another parable is, people have gone to feast, to eat feast, many items, all gathered together, it is being served, lot of noise, lot of talking, what happened, bring this, and then Sri Ramakrishna discussed so nicely, bring luchi, bring pious, like that, bring sweets. They're all calling somewhere how this Indian feast is, They all sit together and people serve one after another, and they're asking whatever they like more and more. There's a lot of noise after that. So when people have fed half stomach, the noise is less. Now no more demand. Then finally there was some last at the yogurt or curd. So when they were eating curd at the dessert, so there was only one sound, soup. So everyone is eating that yogurt. All other sounds gone, all talks gone, all this, there were conversation with one another, oh, how are you, what happened, I have not seen you, why have you become fat, why have you become thin, all that gone. Only full mind concentrated on having these things, soup, sound coming, because all the scripts are gone, food, this is so nice, sweet, this is, they have made this time smaller, last time it was bigger, nothing is like that, no complaint, nothing, no comment, only enjoying now yogurt, only one sound. After that, Sri Ramakrishna said, after that full stomach up to the throat, then what they will do? They will go and take rest. Now no sound. Now they are resting fully. So all the sound merges into silence because what they sought, they have got. So unless we get what we seek, there is noise. This quietude, silence is the sign that we have got the thing. So on the process, when we become less noisy, less talkative, less disturbing, that means we are progressing on the right path. We are going to get the thing that we are searching, and that what we are searching is ourselves, our true nature, who we are. Knowingly, unknowingly, we are searching that. Unless we find that real silence will not come. But as we approach, the silence will help in getting that reality. Thank you.